You're watching NewsX. My name is Vineet. Advocate Prashant Bhushan says that the Congress party needs to be on the front foot regarding Sam Pitroda's remarks on the inheritance tax. The advocate backs the inheritance tax despite the Congress party distancing itself from it and points out that the tax would be levied only on crorepattis and not on the common people. He adds that the money would be used for development and funding employment. He also highlights that every rich country has inheritance tax. Recently, a row erupted over inheritance tax as the BJP claims that the Grand Old Party will implement this tax if they come to power. And after Sam Pitroda's comments on the tax, which is applicable in the USA, party leader Jairam Ramesh clarified that there is no mention of inheritance tax anywhere in the Congress manifesto. So if the Congress is distancing itself from the debt tax row, what is it planning to do? We'll talk about this with our guest. Joining us on the show to give more insights and perspective is Mr. Xavier Rodriguez, BJP leader. Ashpreet Khadial, Congress spokesperson, also joins us on the show. Jaijit Bhattacharya, President for the Center for Digital Economy Policy Research, on the show with us as well. Last but by no means the least, Mr. Gautam Mukherjee, senior journalist, also joins us on the show. Xavier, I'll begin with you. I really could not follow what Mr. Prashant is trying to say here. He's saying the Congress should be on the front foot when it comes to inheritance tax. Is he recommending that this is something that should be implemented and every other nation has it? I can't think of too many countries that have an inheritance tax. And secondly, it's still going to be a problem if you're going to be in fact heavily taxing the crorepattis of this country? They're already contributing to employment. Why would you snatch away a chunk of their wealth and treat it as the government's money and create wealth? How does this logic even play out? Xavier.
Vineet, I think Prashant Bhushan, after getting the verdict of the Supreme Court on EVMs, has a bit of a sadma or a disturbance in his mental balance. And that is why he has decided to turn to the Congress as a saving grace in order to show his relevance in the scheme of elections at this point of time. Congress has distanced itself from the inheritance tax because they claim that it is not a part of their manifesto. Sam Pitroda, for whatever relationship he has with Rahul Gandhi and the Congress, has shared his view, and that view, if the Congress's main party line is not accepting it, then well, it's not a view that we want to get into. But Prashant Bhushan is just trying to find relevance. The concept of an inheritance tax itself is absurd, primarily because you want to go and tax those who are creating an economic stability as far as this country is concerned. The concept of inheritance tax itself is absurd. And therefore, any noise to Prashant Bhushan is actually an empty vessel.
Xavier, he also spoke at the Oxford University.
Noise for no particular reason.
Xavier, he also spoke at the Oxford University very recently, if you've seen that.
Well, there are many people who speak at the Oxford universities. There is no...
you know what context I'm talking about. Yeah.
There is no reason to believe just because they have gone to foreign soil and shared a view that we have to take it with...
No, that's not my point. That's not the point I was trying to make. I'm saying he's obviously against the government in that particular situation as well.
Of course he's against the government. Prashant Bhushan belongs to an anarchist lot of people that want to paint the current government as absolutely anti-people. But Prashant Bhushan should actually go and read the book Amit Bigaria and I are writing, and maybe I'll send him a copy, to understand what the government has done over the last 10 years. Because Prashant Bhushan has not put a single toilet for the people of India. It is this government that has put roughly 13 crore toilets, irrespective of caste or creed, across India. Prashant Bhushan has not gone ahead and given tap water connections to the people of India. About 14 crore odd tap water connections have been given by this government under Narendra Modi's leadership. Prashant Bhushan is actually a wasted individual trying to seek attention using political parties for mileage so that he gets the attention. Otherwise, he's of no relevance whatsoever. He lost his relevance primarily when he got thrown out of the Aam Aadmi Party, or he left, as he would claim, when India Against Corruption was at its height. And therefore, any statement made by Prashant Bhushan, no doubt he might be a great legal numeri for people who think he's great. The fact of the matter is his whining over the EVMs has got a very strong retort from the Supreme Court. And that has damaged his mental balance. That's why I'm saying Prashant Bhushan is currently in Sadma.
Okay. Let's get a response from Ashpreet Khadiyal also, who joins us, Congress spokesperson. Ashpreet, do you consider that this advice that has come from Mr. Prashant Bhushan is unsolicited? He's obviously asking the Congress party to be on the front foot when it comes to the inheritance tax. This has already landed your party in a bit of an embarrassing situation.
Not at all. I think the country knows it, that it was Mr. Rajiv Gandhi who had done away with the state duty in 1985, number one. And it was Mr. Jayant Sinha and it was Mr. Arun Jaitley that had spoken in favor of inheritance tax. So the Bharatiya Janata Party should first either condemn to what they said or should basically embrace to the statements that were made by their own leaders. Number three, we made it crystal clear that the remarks of Mr. Pitroda were his personal remarks. They had nothing to do with the opinion, with the perception of the Congress party, and they could not be attributed to us. However, the Bharatiya Janata Party is adamant that, because he's a leader of yours, and if he says something, it has to be attributed to you. If we go by that logic, then the Bharatiya Janata Party should be attributed the actions and the words of Mr. Brij Bhushan. They should be attributed the words of Mr. Kuldeep Sengar. They should be attributed the words of Mr. Chinmayanand, Mr. Sandeep Singh, and their leader who has been convicted of corruption, the former president of the Bharatiya Janata Party, Bangaru Lakshman, the lone Mizoram MLA. So the Bharatiya Janata Party should stop blowing hot and cold at the same time. And if this is the logic that the Bharatiya Janata Party wants to give, they should first implement it upon themselves and then they should talk about others. That way.
Gautam, how do you look at the situation? The inheritance tax debate, is it necessary in our country? We have bigger problems to take care of. We have, bigger fishes to fry, as they say colloquially.
I think the idea, Vineet, is to try and demoralize the growth engine of this country. It isn't these shirtless wonders who are providing for this country and making it go from strength to strength. It is the drivers of industry and enterprise and innovation that are doing so. Now, a good deal of this is not Adani and Ambani, as these people love to say, including, I completely agree, and a totally irrelevant Prashant Bhushan who tries to latch on like a flea on a dog to anything that's going past in order to stay in the news. But the fact is, a lot of people have come from nowhere, whether it is a cricketer from the interior who then goes on to earn millions, or whether it is various members of the middle class who start off something and then grow rich. Now, you are going to hit the ball across the board. Are you going to tax the Waqf board, which is the largest landowner, or the Christian church, which is second largest? Do you have the gumption? Do you dare? And so on the one hand, you make these sort of wild sort of statements which belong to another era, and to say that, Western countries have an inheritance tax. As I've said before on this channel, there are many ways to make sure that your wealth is not taxed by forming trusts, by forming NGOs, by forming philanthropic organizations, which you control. But as soon as you do that, then the tax does not apply. So on the books from the socialist 60s, which also existed in the West, you cannot, sort of extrapolate it into the 21st century, because that is not what is driving any country, including a communist country. Any communist country that tries to overdo this, or even welfareism. A country like Saudi Arabia came into trouble because they had overdone the welfareism, and they didn't know how to, square it with the fluctuating price of oil. So this is completely sensationalism, whether it's coming from Pitroda or whether this flea on the dog person is trying to get a leg up. It makes no sense in 2024, and that is the reason. It's no use quoting, the late departed Jaitley or the now retired Jayant Sinha, because they are also really harking back, perhaps musing aloud in a manner that is no longer accepted by any mainstream party, including the Congress. So what is this all about? It makes no sense except in terms of sensationalism. Winning.
All right, fair enough. Mr. Bhattacharya, in fact, if you look at some of the countries that have this inheritance tax, there are only a handful of them, and most of them fall in Europe, including Belgium, Germany, France, United Kingdom. United States has a rate of 40%, and it's not a federal rate. It depends on state to state, but the average is 40%. There is inheritance tax in Turkey, Vietnam, Brazil, Poland, Switzerland, Philippines, smaller countries. Italy has a 4% inheritance tax. Predominant part of the world does not believe in inheritance tax. And the countries that have this as a law, they by numbers are of course very small, and by income and per capita also are perhaps higher in that category. How would you view this particular debate, this raging debate that is going on between the ruling government and the opposition when it comes to wealth redistribution? Can, getting money from a dead parent be considered as capital gains? How does this work, and how do you see this?
Since you started with Europe, let me take the examples of the most egalitarian countries in Europe, which is Norway, Sweden, Finland, and so on. None of those countries have an inheritance tax or steps towards wealth redistribution in the manner that we're saying, which is taking away from those who have and trying to give it to those who do not have. There is no concrete evidence or research done which shows that this kind of step actually leads to inequality in the society. So what is the purpose of this step? What is being talked about is that by taking wealth away from those who have it and giving it to others, it lead to redistribution, therefore equality in the country. Now, let's take a thought experiment. The average income in this country is about 2.5 lakhs per annum. So let's take everybody's income and give everybody 2.5 lakhs per annum, which comes to about 20,000 rupees per month. Let's just think what will happen. Where will the jobs come from which will give them 20,000 rupees per month? Who among these people will stand up and say, now I'll create the next $10 billion refinery? Who will create the next automobile company in this country? Or is it that we are saying that everything will be back to the government building up these capital investments, and therefore the government giving the jobs, which is harking back to the socialistic / the communistic era, which is dead globally. Clearly, these are not regimes that can work. And we have seen what happened in regimes which tried to do so. The Pol Pot regime in Cambodia, it ended up killing billions and millions of people. The commune regime in China, which is the agricultural commune regime, where everybody would get an equal share of whatever they want to produce, it ended up that nobody was producing anything, and 30 million people in China died. Let's take the example of Uganda. They said that the Indians in Uganda are creating inequality. They are having disproportionate concentration of wealth, and therefore they should be thrown away. Their wealth, their farms, their lands should be given back to the Ugandans in an equal manner. What happened? The Indians obviously suffered. They left Uganda, but the Ugandans suffered even more. Their economy tanked completely for decades. Now, clearly, these are very hamstrung ideas. And if ideas are not tested and then put in as political viewpoints, it's extremely dangerous. We saw what happened in Sri Lanka when they said we will use no fertilizer, no pesticide in agriculture, an untested idea. Their entire agriculture got demolished in that year, and Sri Lanka is in the situation that we see, a complete economic spiral. These untested ideas being brought in and given the sheen of some kind of an academic wrapper is very, very dangerous for the country, for the economy, for the people. And also, please do keep in mind that this is not just an economic issue, it's also a social issue. Socially, in India, this is unacceptable. We did have a discrepancy from 1953 onwards when such a tax was put into India. It was duly taken out. But this is socially an unacceptable step, not from coming out from the culture of India. We build capital for the next generation. And please do keep in mind that concentration of capital is not bad. Unless we have concentration of capital, we'll not have the next generation of industry coming up. Imagine if Kumaramangalam Birla had only half of what his father left for him. We would have 1 lakh less jobs in this country. The Aditya Birla Group has about 2 lakh jobs globally, 1,90,000 roughly speaking. So we would have 1 lakh jobs vanish because we had an inheritance tax. And would somebody else create that jobs? I would not imagine so. Whoever would have taken over that 1 lakh, that half of the wealth, would not have created the kind of wealth that Aditya Birla Group generated under the leadership of Kumaramangalam Birla. And this is just one off-the-cuff case. There'll be multiple such cases that we can quote. So these hamstrung ideas is really a dangerous thing for this country. And we should call it as such and bury it as soon as possible.
Right. Savi, according to you as a political analyst and somebody who supports the BJP as well, what do you think could have been the inspiration or the motivation behind such a move? Who's listening? I mean, we are discussing it in studios and air-conditioned rooms, but do you think the people who are actually going to go out and vote for either Rahul Gandhi or Mr. Narendra Modi are actually able to wrap their heads around inheritance tax?
Well,
is this detached from realities on ground?
Well, it is certainly logically detached from reality on the ground. But the fact of the matter is, once the information spreads and people get to know about it, their interpretation of what the inheritance tax is or what the idea of inheritance tax is not going to sit down well with many people. Because it's like I said, and what the other panelists are also saying, is that at the end of the day, an organization that's making its wealth, it's making its wealth primarily through hard work and through persistence. And that's why you have some companies that succeed and some companies that don't. We don't want to create an India that is not built on the spirit of competition and the spirit of entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is going to have a level of competition and people are going to get to compete with each other. Somebody is going to go high, somebody is not going to go high. But that does not mean you take somebody's money who's gone high and equally distribute it amongst everybody else. That's not fair. Because at the end of the day, first of all, we've already got reservations into our system, which is not based on merit. And today you're building an India, I'm sorry, and I say that to even people in my own party, you are building an India that is not based on meritocracy. And that is where the problem is. And when you start looking at people saying that just because we have to appease based on caste and creed, you are actually building your home on sand rather than building it on rock. And it's the same thing with inheritance tax. Today, let's say, for example, starting from small beginnings, we are valued at about 100 crore a company. Am I supposed to distribute that wealth for the hard work that my team and I put in over a period of time? No, and I'm not going to allow that to happen. Simply because equal distribution of wealth should also be balanced with equal amount of hard work and effort to arrive at that position. Every single entrepreneur that has been successful, whether it's Adani, Ambani's or everybody in the startup or MSME segment who might have a 1 crore company to a 100 crore company, has arrived at that position through a whole lot of hard work. They are building careers. They are creating opportunities for families to be socially equipped. That's what entrepreneurs do. And you're going to go and tax an entrepreneur based on what he has earned and his inheritance. That's absolutely absurd. You will kill the very spirit of entrepreneurship and competition in this country. In order to compete with global countries, we must be competitive. We must drive towards an economic advantage. We must want to move from a 1 crore company to a 100 crore company. are you going to allow that to happen when you're going to tax them through their inheritance? That itself is a killing. You can't kill the spirit. What India has achieved and what India continues to achieve, whether it is the Modi government right now and what it has been doing for many years, is that it's progressing, it's young, are thinking in the spirit of entrepreneurship. They want to compete with the rest of the world. They want to earn money. They want to have good cars. They want to have good homes. Why not? Why should competition and why should wealth be the curse as many people portray it to be? Has Rahul Gandhi decided to distribute his wealth which he has earned, or the money that's in the Swiss bank accounts as a legend? No, they don't do that. So let enterprise flourish, because unless enterprise flourishes, there is economic growth. If you don't allow that to happen, like we saw when Rahul Gandhi signed the MOU with China in 2008, the MSME industry was completely destroyed. It is going to take us another 10 years to catch up with the rest of the world, especially China. We should be building in India. We should be creating in India. Our people should be earning money. Why is it that we are not driving around in Mercedes cars, all of us? Why are we not having the kind of lifestyle that we want? There is still some level of poverty which we are not able to rise up because we are not creating entrepreneurship. Our people are looking at creating government jobs. Do you think a government job...
Let's get a response from Ashpreet also on this. Ashpreet, do you think that the very idea of this income redistribution and inheritance tax is against the spirit of entrepreneurship on which India has been thriving for decades now, and more so very recently?
That's, one of the reasons as to why we did away with it. We abolished it. Mr. Rajiv Gandhi did. But the Bharatiya Janata Party has no time to stop understanding what the facts are, what the history is, what the Congress Party has done. And they have all the time in the world to do propaganda and to lie to the people of India. This is their expertise. My question to the Bharatiya Janata Party is that you ignored all the questions that I asked in the first segment. Therefore, I'll make it more clear, I'll make it more specific, and I'll expect an answer that the country has also been expecting from the last 10 years but haven't gotten because Mr. Modi apparently doesn't prefer doing press conferences, but I'd expect the spokesperson to answer this. Mr. Sinha said, and I quote, "We need estate taxes." When he was the Minister of State, Finance Minister, back in the day, these were his words: "We need estate taxes so that we can at least take 50 to 55% of advantage that dynastic business people have." Calling businessmen, like the gentleman was saying, who have earned, who have worked for it, who have put in so much time into it. Your own leaders are calling them dynastic businessmen. And the Bharatiya Janata Party, instead of coming forward and coming clean about it, is trying to mislead the people of India. This is the brain child of the Bharatiya Janata Party.
Can I give you my answer?
You can't.
Let him finish.
You just asked me.
Let him finish, Savio. Let him finish. Ashpreet, go on.
I asked you so that you could speak in a time like a gentleman does. I didn't ask you to interrupt me because I was hearing you patiently.
Okay, fair enough. Continue with your point, Ashpreet.
Yeah, you don't have to get personal. We know you are
Number
personal.
two,
learn from Rahul Gandhi.
Of course.
Dumbass.
Now you may mute yourself.
Come on, Savio. Please don't get personal. Savio, this is not nice, Savio. Don't expect this from you. Savio.
It's not really...
Yes, all right. Go ahead.
No names, please. No names.
It's not really his fault. This is what the Bharatiya Janata Party is trained for. We expect them
That's
to
what
do
the
this.
Congress is also trained
Savio,
for.
come on. Savio. I don't want to put your fader down.
This is exactly what they're all about, so it's not really their fault. It's fine. Number two, the fact of the matter is that Mr. Jayant Sinha made another statement, which was that there should be a level playing field and we should create opportunities for everyone. Now, the MOS advocating ardently for estate duty, for inheritance tax, going ahead and wanting to have it implemented in India. And the Bharatiya Janata Party is not willing to say a word about this. Mr. Jaitley, the former finance minister, late Sri Jaitley, he had made such vociferous arguments about inheritance tax, and he was in favor of it. So the BJP should at least either condemn their statements or welcome their statements, but do take a stand. Don't just, talk of things which are just irrelevant to the debate. And number two, talking of Swiss banks, I just want to congratulate the Bharatiya Janata Party spokesperson on his audacity to have uttered the word Swiss banks, because Mr. Modi had uttered the same word 10 years down the line and ago instead, when he said that he'll be taking out the money from Swiss banks, giving you 15 lakhs rupees. Instead of giving 15 lakh, you could not even give a single rupee to the people of India. And what you did was, through demonetization, you snatched away the savings of women, of housewives. That is what the Bharatiya Janata Party is well known for, the demonetization you did and the consequences that the country had to bear because of that. Number three, the Bharatiya Janata Party does have an achievement. I don't appreciate, when people say the Bharatiya Janata Party hasn't done anything in the last 10 years.
Wrap it up, Ashpreet. Wrap it up, please.
Yeah. One last
Wrap it up.
There is this major achievement of the Bharatiya Janata Party. They have created a massive disbalance. There are people who do not have clothes to wear, food to eat, shelter over their head. On the other hand, there are people who are spending thousands of crores on the marriage of their children.
Okay.
Then 40% of the wealth of India is concentrated in 1%. And then there are people who don't have the basic means to sustain themselves. And then, I don't expect the Bharatiya Janata Party to understand this, because
okay, all right, we've run out of time. I want some quick thoughts from Gautam and Mr. Bhattacharya, and then we wrap up. Gautam?
Well, one thing that nobody talks of is the need for a meritocracy. We've done enough by way of reservations. Continuously, we keep adding to it. And so lots and lots of substandard people are brought into the mainstream, and with the hope and prayer that they will contribute now that they've been given a leg up from the historical lows. But now you take the meritorious and you hit them over the head with a 50% tax, and then you take it and distribute it to people who are non-achievers. Their only claim to fame is that they are poor. They're poor for a reason, not always just because they're downtrodden by the 1% that owns everything. So this is a specious argument, and it has been tried in a number of places like Venezuela, Nigeria, essentially rich people who completely went to pieces trying to give money to the less deserving just because they are poor. This makes no sense.
Okay.
And it has been discarded.
All right. Mr. Bhattacharya, quickly.
And should be left where it is.
All right, Mr. Bhattacharya, quickly.
It's music to my ears that I hear both the representative of BJP and the representative of Congress saying that they do not believe in wealth redistribution through inheritance taxes and through other such mechanisms. That's great to hear. But I still continue to hear from national parties and their representatives that they will, that it's important to discuss wealth redistribution in a manner which is alien from an Indian perspective. Also, please do keep in mind that when we are talking about US policies on wealth redistribution and inheritance tax, most of the large billionaire families actually hide their money behind trust. So all that will happen is that if ever this is implemented in India, is that money will go into unproductive means, it will go into gold, it will be relocated outside of India into the Swiss banks that was just mentioned about a little while ago. That's going to hurt India because we'll lose the capital that is needed to build new factories and new jobs. So I hope such a policy never comes into India and we continue to go in the growth path.
It in all likelihood will not. This is perhaps a conversation which is going to, in fact, floating in thin air, and that's where it'll end up being. Thank you, gentlemen, for being a part of this conversation.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.